For those of you that have been following Final Fantasy news, you know that on September 1st, Square Enix is running a 25th anniversary event for Final Fantasy. They're going to announce a new game, which is a new development in the Lightning Saga and has just started production. So most likely this game is going to be Final Fantasy XIII-3, especially how 13-2 ended with the to be continued. So yeah. I enjoyed Final Fantasy XIII and XIII-2. I think they're quite solid games. I'm not a hater of them in any way. So I want to make a video of 5 improvements they could make in the 13 franchise to make it, in my opinion, better. So let's talk about the difficulty of the game. So 13 comes along and I think it's quite a hard game. There's plenty of boss battles. Most of them, it's kind of trial and error with your paradigm system as to how you're going to approach it to defeat the boss. And yeah, pretty hard. I remember a particular battle with a guy named Sid Reigns, which took me like months to do. And then 13-2 comes along and the boss battles are really, I think, poor. They're easy. I didn't lose against the boss until the final boss, which is very surprising. Yeah, the strategy was kind of just Ravager, 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 get a stagger, and then deal lots of damage. So I hope for Final Fantasy XIII-3 they bring back more boss battles in the main story I'm talking about. I know the side quests when you verse the bosses again in 13-2, they're harder. But in the main story, I hope that they bring back the difficulty of 13 again, or at least make a hard difficulty if you're going to make it that easy. Okay, side quests. 13, there wasn't very many side quests. They were kind of the hunt missions, were the side quests of the game where you just verse monsters. While 13-2 comes along and has more side quests along the lines of find my watch kind of things. So that was kind of interesting, but the Find My Watch side quests aren't very developed. I'd rather if Square Enix decides to have less side quests but make them develop more into stories. There were some really good side quests that I enjoyed, which I hope kind of come back in some sort of form in 13-3, like the quiz ones, where you do the quizzes, and the monster collecting ones, which is kind of like a Pokemon, collect them all kind of thing, to get the fragments. So I hope they continue with side quests in towns, but less Find My Watch, more developed or fun kind of things. Now, the villain of the games. So 13, when you're playing it, you kind of didn't know in some parts who was the villain, what was happening, because there was no one established villain. 13-2 though improved on this and introduced Caius, which I thought was a quite brilliant villain, and I just really want him to, I mean, how it ended, it's kind of a shoo-in that he will come back, but I really do hope he does come back because he was, I think, a great villain. He had motive, he was interesting, he interacted well with the other characters, so I hope he comes back. And points 4 and 5 I'm kind of mashing into one. It's about characters and the conclusion of the story. So I hope, for one, that I know what happens at the end of 13-2 and it's kind of difficult, but I hope we play as Lightning again, because it is the Lightning Saga after all. Not just small parts of the game like they did in 13-2. I would like her to be the main protagonist for the whole thing. And I would like them to not introduce any new characters in 13-3, because it should be a wrap-up of the 13 franchise. It's the end of the console cycle, then most likely you're not going to get another 13 game. And yeah, the second point of this is I do want a conclusive story, that they will wrap it, and that the story for 13-3 is easy to understand. 13 and 13-2, in 13, to understand some of the story you need to read those journal entries, which was dumb, really. 13-2, some parts were really good, like the Find Lightning kind of parts of the story, but then there were some really strange parts of the story which I didn't like, so hopefully they make a conclusive, going to one goal story that ends at the end. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're watching this is my first video on YouTube, so it would really help me out if you would like it. And if you want to see more, you can subscribe up there somewhere. Yeah, see ya!